Motorcycling has its fair share of legends, and not all of them are about daredevil riders or epic road trips. Some of the most persistent tales are the so-called truths, whispered at bike nights, repeated in garages, and passed down like gospel. The problem is that many of these myths are dead wrong, and believing them can cost you performance, money, or even your safety. Today, we're firing up the engines and shredding through the 7 biggest motorcycle myths that refuse to die. If you love riding as much as you love the truth, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. 7. Riding without gear is fine for short trips. You've probably heard it, maybe even said it yourself. It's just a quick ride down the road, I don't need all my gear. It sounds harmless enough. You're not going far, you're not planning to go fast, and you're just running an errand. But here's the truth that veteran riders and accident data will slap you in the face with: the road doesn't care how far you're going. Most motorcycle accidents happen close to home. In fact, insurance and safety studies consistently show that a large percentage of crashes occur within the first few miles of a ride. Why? Because that's when riders are the most relaxed, least alert, and most likely to underestimate risk. You're mentally thinking about where you're going, not about who's texting while driving in the lane next to you. And when accidents happen at lower speeds, the human body still takes the hit hard. Falling off a bike at 30 miles per hour can mean broken bones, severe road rash, or worse. Even minor injuries from a short trip can become life-changing if they keep you off work or off your bike for months. Now let's talk gear. Many riders think that wearing a helmet and gloves is enough for short rides. But the skin on your arms, legs, and torso is just as vulnerable. Asphalt doesn't care if it's just a quick grocery run, it will shred you in seconds. A proper jacket, riding pants, and boots aren't overkill. They're the difference between brushing yourself off and being wheeled into an ER. There's also weather and road conditions to think about. A quick trip can turn ugly with a sudden rain shower, a patch of gravel, or an oil slick at an intersection. Without gear, you have zero protection against sliding, bruising, or even being burned by your own bike as it tips. And here's something most riders don't realize. Once you make exceptions for short trips, it's easier to keep making exceptions. You start convincing yourself, I'll just wear jeans today, or I'll skip the jacket, it's hot out. Before long, you've built a habit of riding unprotected, and that's exactly when bad luck decides to show up. The pros? They gear up every single time. Doesn't matter if it's 1 mile or 100. They know that the inconvenience of putting on gear is nothing compared to the pain of wishing you had. So next time you think about hopping on your bike in just a t-shirt because you're only going around the block, remember this: the crash you don't expect is the one that will change everything. And speaking of myths that can change everything, let's move into one that's been drilled into riders for decades. The truth might just surprise you. 6. You need to warm up your bike for 10 minutes before riding. This myth is one of those lingering garage legends that refuses to die. Somewhere along the line, riders started believing that before you even think about putting your bike in gear, you've got to let it sit there idling for a good 10 minutes, puffing exhaust into the crisp morning air like a dragon waking up from a nap. The logic behind it sounds reasonable. Give the engine time to fully warm up so everything's lubricated, smooth, and ready to perform. But here's the thing. Modern motorcycle engines are not 1970s carbureted clunkers. Today's bikes, especially fuel-injected ones, are designed to circulate oil and reach operating temperatures quickly. In fact, idling for too long before riding can do more harm than good. Why? Because prolonged idling warms the engine, but not the rest of the bike's moving parts. Your transmission, clutch, and bearings still remain cold. The engine oil warms up far quicker under light load than it ever will sitting still. Plus, leaving a bike idling for extended periods can lead to incomplete combustion, which creates carbon buildup, fouls plugs, and wastes fuel. So what's the right approach? Fire it up, give it about 30 seconds to a minute, enough time for the oil to circulate, then ride gently for the first few miles. That gentle load gets all the fluids moving and parts expanding evenly to their normal operating clearances. You're helping the bike warm up faster, more efficiently, and with less wear. This myth probably stuck around because older carbureted bikes really did need more time to warm up. Without it, they could stumble, stall, or hesitate when you gave them throttle. Riders simply carried that habit over into the modern age without realizing technology had moved on. But with modern fuel injection, cold start enrichment automatically adjusts the air-fuel ratio to run smoothly from the get-go. Idling too long isn't just unnecessary, it can actually shorten engine life over time. Excessive idling can lead to oil contamination from unburnt fuel, which breaks down the oil's lubricating properties. That's a slow killer for any engine, and your bike deserves better. Still think you're protecting your bike by letting it hum in the driveway for 10 minutes? You're really just wasting fuel, polluting more, and aging the engine for no reason. The pros, including factory engineers, agree. Start it, wait briefly, then ride easy. Of course, warming up properly is just one part of riding smarter. There's another myth out there that trips up even experienced bikers, one that could cost you serious money if you believe it. It's all about how often you think you need to swap your oil, and let's just say the old every 3,000 miles chant is not what you think. 5. Premium oil always make your bike run faster. Some riders treat their bike like a picky movie star, insisting only the premium stuff will do. Pulling into a gas station, they head straight for the high-octane pump like it's a VIP lounge, convinced their motorcycle will thank them with more speed, more power, and maybe even a longer life. It sounds logical. Premium must mean better, right? Except in the world of fuel, that's not how it works at all. Here's the truth. Octane rating doesn't mean energy level. It's not rocket fuel for your bike, it's simply a measure of a fuel's resistance to knocking, that annoying pinging sound you get when fuel combusts too early in the cylinder. Some high-performance bikes, especially those with high compression engines, actually need that resistance to run smoothly. But for most cruisers, commuters, and everyday rides, premium fuel isn't just unnecessary, it's a waste of money. If your owner's manual says regular unleaded, it's not being cheap. It's telling you exactly what your engine was designed for. Using premium in a regular engine won't suddenly unlock hidden horsepower or improve fuel economy. High-octane fuel burns slightly slower, which can leave carbon deposits over time in an engine not tuned for it. Those deposits can cause rough idling, sluggish performance, and increased maintenance costs. Now, there is one situation where premium fuel can help. If your bike does require it and you cheap out with regular fuel, you might notice loss of power, knocking, or overheating. That's because the engine's ignition timing, compression ratio, and combustion chamber shape are all set up to handle slower burning, high-octane fuel. Skip it in that case, and you're asking for trouble. Fuel companies love the premium means better myth because it boosts their profits every single time a rider treats their bike. And here's the kicker. In blind performance tests, most riders can't even tell the difference between premium and regular when riding a bike that doesn't need it. So the rule is simple. Follow your manual. If it says regular, use regular. If it says premium, use premium. Anything else is just throwing dollars into the tank for no real gain. There's another maintenance myth out there that's wrecking more bikes than it's saving, and it has to do with how often you think you should be swapping out your oil. A lot of riders swear the more the better, but the truth is a little messier. 4. More frequent oil changes are always better. There's a certain satisfaction in draining dark, worn oil from your engine and replacing it with fresh golden liquid. Some riders get hooked on that feeling and start thinking, if changing my oil every 3,000 miles is good, then changing it every 1,000 must be even better. It sounds logical, like taking vitamins twice a day instead of once, but in reality, overdoing oil changes can be more wasteful than wise. The first thing to understand is that modern motorcycle engines and oils are designed for much longer service intervals than they were decades ago. Back in the 70s and 80s, oil technology wasn't nearly as advanced and engines ran dirtier, so 3,000-mile changes were common advice. Fast forward to today, and even regular mineral-based oils can often last well beyond 4,000 or 5,000 miles, while synthetic oils can easily stretch to 6,000 or even 8,000 depending on the bike and riding conditions. Your owner's manual doesn't pull those numbers out of thin air. They're based on engineering tests that balance performance, lubrication, and engine cleanliness. Changing oil too often doesn't make your engine run better. It just empties your wallet faster. Every oil change uses new oil, a fresh filter, and your time or your mechanic's labor. That cost adds up over a riding season, and in most cases, you're throwing away perfectly good oil long before it's lost its protective qualities. There's also the environmental side. Used oil has to be collected and disposed of properly, and the more frequently you change it, the more waste you create. Multiply that by millions of riders worldwide, and you start to see the scale of the problem. Being a responsible rider means taking care of your bike and the planet, and unnecessary oil changes don't help either one. If you ride in extreme conditions like dusty deserts, heavy stop-and-go traffic in sweltering heat, or freezing temperatures, your oil can break down faster. The same goes if your bike sits for months at a time and you want to flush out any moisture or condensation that may have built up. In those cases, changing oil sooner than recommended can be smart preventive maintenance. But here's the key. Sooner doesn't mean all the time. There's a difference between adjusting for harsh conditions and compulsively draining oil every few weeks. That way, you keep your engine healthy without wasting money or resources. Oil is your bike's lifeblood, but like any good medicine, the dose matters. Too little, and you risk serious damage. Too much, well, in this case, too frequent, and you're just spending extra for no benefit. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what's needed, when it's needed. And speaking of things riders tend to overdo, there's another long-standing myth that's been fueling arguments at bike nights for decades. 3. Loud pipes save lives. There's a saying in the motorcycle world that's been repeated so often it's practically gospel. Loud pipes save lives. You've heard it in biker bars, on forums, and maybe even from that one guy at the gas station who swears his open exhaust keeps him alive. The idea is simple. If people can hear you coming, they won't hit you. But here's the truth. This myth is about as reliable as a bald tire in the rain. First, sound travels backward. The rumble from those thunderous pipes is loudest to the people you've already passed. That distracted driver scrolling their phone at the intersection, they're not hearing your exhaust until you're already in their grill. And by then, you'd better hope your brakes are good. Second, there's the hearing issue. Modern cars are practically soundproof. With insulated cabins, thick glass, and music cranked up, most drivers can't even hear an emergency siren until it's right next to them, so your pipes have no chance of cutting through that cocoon. Third, loud pipes might actually make you less safe. Ever notice how some people react when startled by a sudden loud noise? They flinch, swerve, or even slam the brakes. That's not exactly the calm, measured response you want from the person controlling 2 tons of metal near your lane. The real lifesaver isn't noise, it's visibility and positioning. High visibility gear, proper lane placement, defensive riding, and scanning for danger are proven ways to avoid accidents. A bright jacket and a headlight modulator will get you noticed far more effectively than an ear-splitting exhaust note. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy the sound of your bike. If you love that deep, throaty growl, go for it. Motorcycling is supposed to be fun. But if you think it's a force field protecting you from danger, you're setting yourself up for trouble. And, in some places, loud pipes could actually cost you more than they'll save you. Noise ordinances are tightening up. Tickets, fines, and even roadside inspections are becoming more common. So that life-saving roar might just drain your wallet instead. The bottom line, the best way to survive out there is to ride like nobody can hear you, because most of them can't. Assume you're invisible, ride accordingly, and you'll be a whole lot safer than relying on a myth that's been around since the first chopper rolled out of a garage. Some riders swear by a single magic factor that supposedly determines a bike's speed, performance, and bragging rights. But just how true is that? 2. Tighter chains means better performance. Some riders treat their motorcycle chain like a guitar string, tighten it until there's barely any movement, then stand back and admire the precision. The logic seems straightforward. A tighter chain means less slack, which must mean better power transfer and smoother performance. But in reality, over-tightening your chain is one of the fastest ways to wreck your drivetrain and ruin a perfectly good ride. Here's the thing. Motorcycle chains are designed to run with a specific amount of slack. That's not because manufacturers want your bike to feel sloppy, it's because your suspension moves. If your chain is too tight, it has nowhere to go when the suspension compresses, which means it starts pulling directly on the sprockets, the output shaft, and even your gearbox bearings. That's a recipe for premature wear, expensive repairs, and a whole lot of frustration. Instead of smoother performance, you get increased friction. A chain that's too tight has to work harder to rotate, which can actually sap horsepower. Over time, the extra stress can stretch the chain faster, cause sprocket teeth to wear into sharp points, and even damage the seals on your wheel bearings. In extreme cases, an over-tightened chain can snap while you're riding, something you definitely don't want happening at highway speeds. Another common misconception is that a tighter chain will make throttle response sharper. While it's true that eliminating excessive slack can make the bike feel a little more direct, there's a difference between correct slack and no slack. A properly adjusted chain will already give you smooth power delivery without the binding and strain that come from over-tensioning. Manufacturers spend a lot of time calculating that sweet spot for each model, and it's printed in your owner's manual for a reason. Checking and adjusting chain slack isn't complicated. Most bikes specify a range, often around 1 to 1.5 inches of vertical movement at the midpoint between the sprockets. You measure it with the bike on a stand or with the weight on the wheels, depending on the manufacturer's instructions. The important part is staying within that range, not going tighter just because it feels better. Chain tension also changes slightly as the chain wears, so regular inspections are important. If you notice you're constantly adjusting it tighter, it may be time for a replacement. A worn chain and sprocket set is cheaper to replace than a damaged output shaft or destroyed gearbox bearings. And when you do replace them, keeping the new chain at proper tension from day one will help it last much longer. The bottom line is that your chain isn't just a link between your engine and rear wheel, it's part of a finely balanced system that relies on a little give to work properly. Tightening it beyond spec doesn't make your bike faster, smoother, or more efficient. It just adds strain, friction, and risk. And if you think chain tension myths are bad, wait until you hear about the long-running debate over synthetic oil, because a lot of riders are still making decisions based on myth instead of facts, and it's costing them money. And that's our number one. 1. Synthetic oil will make your engine leak. Some myths in the motorcycle world refuse to die, and the idea that switching to synthetic oil will make your engine leak is one of the most stubborn. You'll hear it from old-timers at the diner, in comment sections online, and even from that one expert friend who's been riding since the 70s. The logic usually goes something like this. I switched to synthetic and suddenly my bike started leaking. Therefore, synthetic oil causes leaks. But synthetic oil does not create leaks out of nowhere. It's not like the moment it touches your gaskets, your bike suddenly turns into a dripping faucet. The myth started decades ago when synthetic oil was first introduced. Back then, the formula was very different from what we have today. The early synthetics had smaller, more uniform molecules than conventional oil, which meant they could sneak through microscopic gaps that regular oil couldn't. If an engine already had worn or brittle seals, synthetic oil would find its way through them more easily. This didn't mean synthetic oil caused the leak, it simply revealed a problem that was already there. It's like blaming a flashlight for showing you a crack in the wall. You just hadn't noticed it. Today's synthetic oils have advanced far beyond those early days. Modern formulations are specifically designed to be seal-compatible, meaning they won't shrink or damage gaskets. In fact, in many cases, synthetic oil can help condition seals, keeping them pliable and reducing the risk of leaks over time. But the stigma stuck. Riders passed the story along without the context, and over the years it became motorcycle folklore, an absolute truth that wasn't true at all. Another reason this myth lives on is that many riders decide to go synthetic on older bikes. These machines often have tens of thousands of miles on them, and sometimes years of neglect. Their seals are already tired, their gaskets are hardened, and the inside of the engine might have sludge buildup from years of conventional oil use. When synthetic oil comes in, it has a higher detergent content. It cleans away some of that sludge, and while that's a good thing for engine health, it can also clear away the gunk that was unintentionally sealing small gaps. The result? A leak. Again, not caused by the oil itself, but by the fact the engine was depending on grime to keep oil in. The benefits of synthetic oil far outweigh the risks. It resists breakdown at high temperatures better than conventional oil, flows more easily at cold startup, and offers superior protection against wear. That means your engine stays cleaner, lasts longer, and performs more consistently. If a switch to synthetic causes a leak, it's really just telling you your engine needs some maintenance. It's not the oil's fault, it's a wake-up call. So the next time someone warns you about synthetic oil causing leaks, you'll know the truth. It doesn't create problems, it exposes them. And once those problems are fixed, you get all the benefits of a modern lubricant that keeps your engine in top shape. The real danger isn't synthetic oil, it's believing myths that keep you from giving your bike the protection it deserves. Hey, thanks for watching. If these myth-busting truths blew your mind, let us know in the comments. Want to check out the next video? Click on the left. It might just save your bike's life. And if you don't want to miss more game-changing riding tips, hit that subscribe button now.